coming out this morning. My name's Berkley Fedorchuk. I am working for Hensall Co-op, based out of the actual Hensall location, so southwestern Ontario, Huron County. Some of you may grow IP beans for us here in Eastern Ontario, and if you do, you probably know who Barry Kavanagh is. If you don't, it's a big part of our business. I basically work in grain marketing, and I buy and sell grain from farmers to end users. I'm going to talk in bushels because I know you guys talk in metric tons, but I'm a bushels guy for the most part. So, but I'm sure you'll still know what I mean. So Hensall Co-op has grain marketing. We've got energy, so we do propane, diesel, gas, all those commodities. We've also got a feed division, and we also have a food division that just started about 2 years ago. It's called Screaming Chef, and it's basically microwavable meals that make a noise like screaming when you microwave them and they're done. Anyways, they're available in like Walmart and a few other places. But what I'm really here to talk about is kind of the supply and demand of corn in the present and also in the future. So right now, there still seems to be a bit of corn sitting on farm, and I don't know if that's the case out here, but in southwestern Ontario, there is still corn sitting in bins. We see the basis increasing, or has increased for the last probably 6 months, to the point where it's probably the highest I've ever seen corn basis in the summer. When I talk about basis, I'll usually talk about it in US terms. Like beginning of the week, we were probably at a plus 85 US basis, which is extremely high. It's about 275 Canadian. So you basically add your basis to your futures, divide it by what the Forex is, and that gives you your flat price. So beginning of the week, even today, probably the price of corn in southwestern Ontario delivered end user was about $6.50 or $6.55 a bushel. It's definitely higher out here because I know your basis is higher. Your basis is probably about $3 a bushel right now, delivered to an end user. So you're pushing closer to $7 anyway. The end user does not seem to want to pay much for corn right now. Any of the offers that we're getting are lower than we'd like to be, and a lot of farmers are waiting, thinking the basis is going to get better, and it may. We may see basis get better here for new crop as well, because with low futures, basis has to do all the work. We also need the Canadian dollar to stay low, where it is right now, 72.5 cents. It's not going to hurt if it goes any lower either, because that will definitely help our basis in Canada. If you look at basis compared to, I would say, Michigan right now, like I said earlier, we're probably about in a country elevator, we're probably about a plus 50 for old crop corn. In Michigan, we're looking at about a minus 60 right now, US. So that equates to about $3.75 a bushel US in Michigan. So our prices still aren't too bad for old crop. I know they're not $7 a bushel, but where they are right now is decent. When we look at harvest prices, we've lost a lot in futures. Again, probably almost $1 in futures since March. Again, basis is in the positives right now when it comes to new crop, but the price is a lot lower than what we've been used to through COVID. It's significantly dropped here in the last couple of years. There's definitely still demand for corn. Your crop out here is suffering this year. I was out here last year, and it's a huge difference from what I saw last year. And obviously, it has a lot to do with how much rain you received. I've heard that southern Quebec is not doing very well either. So they're probably going to draw a lot of corn into southern Quebec, to the feed industry. There's also other commodities that can be used in feed too, whether it be wheat, barley, possibly. We haven't seen the price of wheat move maybe like we thought it should. You'd think if there was more demand for it in the feed industry, it might go up, but it just seems like there's too much wheat in Ontario, there's too much wheat in the world right now, and it's keeping the price low. I guess, I don't know how many people here do any forward marketing, or they have done forward marketing. I know it's a tough year because, the crop's going to be, the yield's going to be down this year. So it's always tough to forward contract, just based on, you never know what your yield's going to be like. But when I say that, I really want you to look at, forward prices, selling grain incrementally. I don't want you to sell the whole crop. That's not a good idea. Because the last thing you want to do is be short. If you do get a dry year. But it seems like we're in for, I don't know, another 3 or 4 years of low prices. Compared to what we were used to when we had our all-time highs during COVID. Yes.
You have a contract of X number of tons and you only fill half of this year because the weather's too dry, maybe 3/4 of it. How does Hensall work with that with the farmer at that point?
So yeah, typically we will work with the farmer and try and roll it into the following year. I know some companies will not do that. They will not roll, but yeah, we definitely try and work with growers to help them out when a situation like this arises. So, anybody have any questions at all on anything? No. Does anybody here grow IP beans for Hensall Co-op? No. Have you ever grown for the Hensall Co-op? I know we don't have a big representation out here. We don't have country elevators. But if you have ever grown IP beans, you've probably dealt with Barry Kavanagh. He was kind of the rep out east here, and yeah, we're trying to push east, but it takes time to do that. And get back to basis. This is probably the highest summer basis I've seen on corn in my lifetime. It's $2.75 or $3, and it has to do with how low the futures are too, of course. But whether the end users are going to come to the market and pay up for grain right now, it's hard to say. It kind of feels like that, but I don't know if they will or not. I can see new crop basis possibly going up, especially if futures stay down. A lot of places are going to need to get covered, and they will need to buy grain. So we're kind of just watching closely and seeing what futures are doing. Actually, futures were up today on corn about 5 cents, and I think beans were up 10 to 15. So that's a good sign. The crop tour in the U.S. I believe ends today, so the results will likely be out either today or maybe on Monday. About a week ago, the USDA said 188 bushel corn crop in the U.S. average. they raised it by about 7 bushel since their last report, which is significant. They also found 2.3 million acres more corn, less soybeans. When that happened last Friday, corn dropped about 15 cents on the market, and beans went up 20 or 25. Now, the next time the market traded, corn had pretty much recovered that 10 cents. So you got to wonder if it was already built into the market. The problem is that Chicago follows the USDA and what they say very closely. So if the results do come lower next week from the tour, say they are a couple bushels lower, it's probably not going to do much for the market. You need some big news to really shift the market to get it going up. There's definitely going to be demand for corn. There is right now, and moving into harvest, we're going to see a lot of demand for corn, especially out here in the east and Quebec. So it feels like prices are going to move up, and whether it's the basis or the features does the work, it's hard to say. But I guess just remain positive and look further out and sell incrementally, as I said. Does anyone have any questions at all? Nope. No. All right. I forgot to mention that. So I grew up in Western Canada. I grew up in Manitoba. Western farmers right now are being affected by the canola tariff going into China. So pretty big issue. It's a 75% tariff. Basically, China's saying we don't want any Canadian canola. They're going to have to find other homes in the world to ship canola, because we definitely can't use it all up here in Canada.
The other question is, China's got to get that canola somewhere.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And where they're going to get it from is a good question.
Yes. But I don't understand about the tariff thing. Like.
Yeah. It's interesting with China, because I know Donald Trump has been trying to get China to buy U.S. soybeans, over the past few months. It doesn't seem like it's happening. We're seeing a lot of South American beans headed to China. Price is lower, and they have a strong economy, so they don't really want to be pushed around when it comes down to things.
But it's like the aluminum.
Yes.
The United States doesn't have any aluminum. China doesn't have any canola. It has to come from somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. So hopefully we figure things out, but how they're going to figure it out, I don't know. Oh, canola in Australia? Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, I'm not sure what their crop is like in Australia this year. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about, prices in the future, and what it looks like to forward contract further out?
What are your prices for in the future for your crop, say January, February?
Now again, this will be in a bushel price, so you just have to convert it over to metric tons. Sorry, but I would say like February, March, you're probably looking at about $6.20 a bushel. That's in southwestern Ontario, so delivered to the end user. Its basis is likely going to be higher out here as you get closer to the ports. I know a fellow was saying earlier that this summer they have a very large export program going out of Montreal. They probably ship the most corn they've ever seen go through the port, and the basis was good. Exports pretty much dried up right now. From our neck of the world down in southwestern Ontario, we'll ship soybeans out of Sarnia, and they all end up somewhere in the St. Lawrence. Ship a lot of wheat out of Sarnia that goes to Mondelez in the U.S. and Ohio, which is formerly known as Craft. We load boats in Goderich, which all come this way as well, whether it's non-GMO beans or sometimes corn, but for the most part it's beans. Any other questions at all?
Corn coming into Ontario this year?
Right now there is corn coming into Ontario. Yeah. That I know of, it's coming out of Michigan into the southern Ontario. Their basis is extremely low in the U.S. Like I said, we're probably a plus 50 into a country elevator. They're like a minus 60. So, yeah, over $1 U.S. difference on basis. So I imagine come fall too, we're going to probably see some U.S. corn come out too. It depends on our yields here, but it sure feels like supply is going to be down this year versus what it was last year. The U.S. is talking about over a 2 billion bushel carryout, which would be a record crop. That's definitely not good for the futures market, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens moving forward. That's about all I have for right now.